Welcome to Migrant Money Australia.
We're your hosts, Sydney and Fyzee. We both came to Australia as immigrants, and we want to build this community to help any immigrants get started with investing and building wealth in a new country. Okay, Fyzee, start the drum rolls. We've got our first ever guest of the podcast.
Yes, we do. Somehow we found a guest, and her name is Mandy. Thank you so much for coming on. How do you feel coming on your first podcast?
Well, thanks for having me. It's quite different. Didn't expect to do this today, but thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Great to have you. So this podcast is obviously about immigrants, and we want to share their stories and talk about their money journeys as well, because the title of the podcast is Migrant Money Australia. So we'll start off with your story and learn about your investing journey and so on. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Yep. So I migrated to Australia in 2008. So my parents came here in 2005. So I followed them since then. So they started their journey here as a meat factory worker. So they were able to get skill migration through that path. And when I came here, I started primary school in Central Queensland. That's how they were able to get their migration through, because regional area generally is a lot easier. I couldn't speak a word of English when I first came. It was quite daunting. I remember in the class, I had to go bathroom, but I didn't know how to communicate with the teachers. I just ran out. And when I got back, I got in a bit of trouble. I remember the teacher was writing on the book and she was drawing little pictures against words. And one thing that I always remembered was understood. Like, she asked me, did you understand what I was telling you? And I said, no, because I don't know what that word is. That was huge to me. So that's pretty much the start journey of how I landed here. And because my parents are migrants, their background in language wasn't so strong. So since I was young, I have been through a lot of journeys with them, through buying their first car, first house, second house, and moving across from Queensland to New South Wales. So I went through quite a bit of journey compared to an average person my age, because I was pretty much living a double life as an adult when I was young. So that's about.
So how old were you when you arrived in Queensland?
I was 10.
10 years old?
10, yeah.
And then not a word of English, learning from scratch, and in regional, pretty much Queensland.
Yeah, I was the only Asian at the school at the time.
Oh, that would have been very tough. Did you feel
how was that experience?
It was tough. I didn't really have friends. I remember getting fights with kids, and I was sitting at the red bench, but it's all right. I got through it. Yeah. And
with your journey in school, were you offered any sort of special support during that transition period? Because in my experience, we had a special teacher that would come in, would sit with me to kind of get me through that experience. So did you have any of that sort of support, or it was just kind of, you were just left on your own to sort of fend yourself?
I mean, primary school, I had no idea we were getting graded. That report card, that meant nothing to me, because I was not participating anything in class. Literally did nothing. I don't know how to do spelling bee. I don't know how I get to high school, to be honest. But in primary school, there was not much support. I was just playing, to be honest. Then when we got to high school, that's when I actually started doing task assignments and I got better grades. And I did get introduced to ESL in high school, but I didn't feel quite happy about it, because I felt like I was different from everyone else. So I hardly participated in that class, but instead I did go to English advanced class. So that was something that, made me proud at the time. Yeah.
So ESL, so that was ESL in Queensland, and you moved to New South Wales and you went to school here as well?
Yeah, I moved here middle of year 11 because at the time I had a scholarship in year 10. I went to Japan for 3 months, and from there I met different people in life, and I thought, if I was going to uni, I'm going to be moving from my school and I'll be away from all my friends that I've already made, so I might as well make that move now. So I moved to New South Wales based on that, and because my parents always wanted to move since there's a larger Chinese community here. So then we just migrated in the middle of year 11 after we sold our house on our first day of posting the ad. Yeah.
How was that experience? Pretty much you guys bought a house in Queensland, or?
Yeah, we bought a house after I arrived about 4 years later, because it was close to school and we thought we're going to be there for another 5 years for high school. But since I decided to move with the family to New South Wales, we put the house up for sale.
Okay. And I'm guessing those 4 years, pretty much you guys were renting and pretty much your parents were saving and just scraping through and then doing all that. Because that's always tough.
Yeah, I remember when I first arrived, my parents didn't have much. They were living with their cousin, and it was a 2-bedroom unit. It was 2 couples. So my parents and the cousin and the cousin's wife. And I remember having to share a room with my parents at 10 years old. It was tough. The room was small, and slowly, as time went on, like I think about 6 months later, they were able to find another place. Then we're just sharing a unit together, 2-bedroom, all by ourselves. And the rent was ridiculous cheap. It was like something like $180 a week or $170.
Whoa, talk about rental crisis.
Yeah.
It's a good times. Well, not really. I mean, yeah, very cheap. And so when you guys moved to New South Wales, and obviously there's a bigger Chinese community here, how did it feel to see more of like, more Chinese people, obviously, because in central Queensland, there's not much representation there. You're the only Chinese person there. How did it feel? Was it a lot easier? Did you make friends well, or how'd it go?
It's actually quite different. My parents are definitely happier, but in terms of me, because I kind of associated myself in like a more diverse cultural background when I was in Queensland, I didn't hang out with the Asian friends. I didn't want to be associated because I, to be honest, there was a lot of bullying going on at the time. So I trying to just segregate myself from that group. So when I moved here, I went to Beverly Hills High School girls, and it was, I think there was only about 10 to 15 Asian girls in that year, but I didn't end up making much friends from there. I was more hanging out with Lebanese background or Caucasian background at first, but eventually, when I warmed up to more of the Asian friends, I felt like it was a lot closer. So now, my groups are mainly Asians. I think because the culture backgrounds are very similar, so then you get to make deeper connections. Yeah.
Yeah, because you feel like connection straight away, especially when you immigrant, they speak your language and it's all similar background, helping parents. Because then when you were 10, I'm guessing you started in English, you were the interpreter for the family?
What's that? I was. I remember, like, can you imagine 12-year-old at a real estate agent, like trying to sign the leases for them, how to prove how they have income, and then buying a car. And it's good that I didn't feel like I was disrespected because I was younger, but people actually appreciate that, the kid is doing so much for the parent. So I had pretty good experiences from there. I
would say that's a normal experience for all of us, especially when we come with our parents and then they don't know a lick of English.
Yeah, I've definitely had that experience. And it's a bit daunting sometimes, but I think you feel very valued because you're helping your parents through a very tough time, and I think it helps them a lot. And so, like, let's talk more about the investing side as well. So tell us about your investing journey so far and how that's been and what your plans are moving forward.
Yeah, so I only started investing during COVID time because you get a lot more free time staying at home, you're not spending money, and you just see your savings stacking up. At the time, I was doing a credit roll, which gave me the accessibility to view how everyone positions themselves through their financial documents. And I just wish I was someone like them. So I started looking into properties. I can't afford anything in Sydney, obviously. Looking into interstate, it was a lot more affordable at the time. You're looking at properties around high 200 to low 400. So that's the range that I was comfortable with. And with that rental income, I know that with time and savings, I could potentially get up to 6 properties, and that will give me the return that I'm looking for. So far, I've got 2, one in Perth and one in South Australia. They're doing well, but I guess my word of advice is don't get a property that is very big, because I have a property that's 6 by 3, and it's given me a lot of issues with maintenance and bills. Yeah, but going forward, looking to having a small business that provides a side income as well as having a full-time job. Still in the progress of trying to discover what that is. Yeah.
Damn, she's absolutely killing it.
Hashtag goals.
So in terms of obviously getting started with investing, how did that journey begin? Like, obviously your parents work very hard. Was it like spoken about a lot? And how did you, because it is very tough for people to get started with investing, especially taking that first step. How did you go about that? Was it like spoken a lot about at home? How did you get started with that?
My parents was not supportive of getting into state properties at all because they've seen how Perth has performed in the past 10 years. They have friends living there and they said, why would you buy a house that's never going to grow? It's in a regional area. It's not going to do well. So they didn't want me to go into it because they think it was high risk. But after COVID, now they realize their money is worth nothing. So they're actually looking to invest in property themselves, but still in New South Wales. And I've told them that you'll be looking at, 1 million plus, probably 1.5, and you will be getting negative gearing for sure. But they still believe that Sydney is still going to be the market to be in. Yeah.
So even though you've shown that you're doing well interstate with your properties, they still want to sort of stick with the Sydney market. Is that what you think?
They want to see a property that they can physically visit and view. I think that's something that's stuck in their mind, and they're not willing to accept to the idea that you can have a property elsewhere that you've never seen before, and you're just buying based off photos pretty much. Yeah. Hold
on. I want to take a step back. So pretty much you purchased the properties, COVID. How long were you saving for? Because then it's not like you just have the money straight away. Like that doesn't work. So then we want all listeners to understand that. Yeah. So it's a journey. So how long were you saving for to get to that stage?
I started working when I was 14.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. So I've been working since I was 14 till now, probably just over 10 years. And so I just always saved a little bit on the side. I've learned something from my economic teacher in high school that you always save 10% of your salary on the side. So even though I spend and I went on holidays, I still always had that 10%. So that really helped me. And plus getting a full-time job after uni has really helped getting that savings up. As well as that, I was working for a bank. You can borrow up to 90% without LMI. So that's a really big tip, yeah.
Talking about that journey, so pretty much you finished high school and then what did you do at uni?
I did commerce because like everyone else who doesn't know what they're doing in life, they choose commerce. Yep. And so still quite
commerce or business, we know the feeling.
Yeah. I mean, you get your arts, you get your commerce. Unless you want to be a doctor, then you go for it, right? Yeah.
No, but that's great. So pretty much that's an amazing journey. Pretty much, and then you supported your parents, you helped them a lot, and then pretty much, what's the next step? Are you looking to push to 6 properties, or right now you want to take a bit of a break or a step back, or what's the plan?
Ideally, I want to get one more property, but that's as long as the servicing allows me to. But you can't really borrow too much on salary, so that's why I'm pursuing to have a side business, because the more business you have, the more different streams of income that will help with getting that property. So my goal is to have as much as income stream as possible other than the full-time job that allows you to acquire more assets essentially.
And just asking, so where's that drive coming from? Is that something that you always wanted to do, or is it something that you saw as you were growing up and then helping your parents?
I never saw myself doing this, honestly. I thought I'm just going to work 9 to 5 and just be it. But I wasn't happy in my jobs. I felt like the days are going by and I'm getting older and I'm losing all my time. And if that's all I've been spending my time on, just doing something I don't love, then there's no point in life, right? If you're just living by paycheck to paycheck. So I wanted to reach, a point in life where I can be happy to just take a year off, 5 year off, just to be with my family, doing whatever I really like. Having that freedom is what I'm after.
All right, so pretty much it's not about the money, it's looking for that freedom.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then spending time with pretty much friends and family. That's the goal long term.
Yeah, because you only live for so long and you don't know when your day will come, right? So if your last day spent is at work and you've never lived, then what's the point? Yeah.
No, but your journey, to be honest, it's amazing. You literally came here in 2008, you were 10, and then going through high school, the whole experience, and moving into state. That's the whole thing. It's a huge move, because then you move countries and then you move states. So it's a shock to the system as well.
I think I'm just not thinking through, to be honest. If I could go back, I don't know if I'll make the same choice, because I was doing really well at school in Queensland, and the curriculum is quite different there, and I had a bunch of friends who was very motivating and they were doing really well. So majority of the group that I was with, they're either lawyers or doctors, and I feel like a failure because I just did a Bachelor of Commerce. I'm still not sure what I'm doing in life, and I just wish that I have more guidance in terms of like a career path. If maybe that would have happened for me if I was in Queensland, maybe, but didn't do too well in New South Wales when I made the move because I was so behind of all schoolings. Yeah.
Oh, what do you mean? As in the classes, subjects, or?
Yeah. Because I remember going. So in Queensland, I did, I think they call it Civil Science 6, which is the hardest maths, all sciences, hardest English. That's what I did, right? So I thought I was able to carry that on in New South Wales. But when I moved here, I went to my chemistry class, and my first day I had an exam and I had no idea what's happening. And I looked at the textbook. I was more than half the textbook behind, and I thought, no way I can do this. I dropped out my chemistry class in 3 days. And then I still happened to get into an English advanced class, so that was lucky. I went to my maths class. I dropped out my maths extension as well because my teacher was just not experienced. He was brand new, never taught HSC before. It was very disappointing, and I gave up maths essentially. I got a band 2 in maths. So apparently that's very hard to achieve. You have to fail very hard to get band 2. So that was me.
Or anyone listening to this that doesn't know the education system in Australia, we got this thing called band system, where it goes 1 to 5.
Yep.
And pretty much 1 to 6, yeah. And pretty much 1, you're the best, and if you're like me, going on band 3 and 4, then you're okay.
Wait, I think band 6 is the best.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
One is a complete fail.
All right, guys, I never said anything.
You didn't completely fail. You somewhat failed.
I'd answered the multiple choice, so that's how I got the band 2.
But look, I think there's an important point to be made here.
Hey, she was doing extension maths and English, and I'm like, I was barely doing ESL.
Yeah, I did standard English, general maths. So like, look, I think the important point to be made here is that despite getting that result in maths, you're still killing it like financially. If you look at obviously the properties you've bought and the plan you've got, a lot of people do excel in school, university, but they're not able to convert that into like investments. All they do is just a job, which, you know, that's what they do. I'm not saying the different choices in life, but sometimes people just don't invest. So it just goes to show that like school is not the biggest predictor of where you're going, like wealth-wise and money-wise. So just important to point that out. But one thing that I want to ask you is, obviously you did a degree in commerce. If you were to redo like the last, say, 6 years, would you still go down the university path, or what would you do?
That is actually very hard to answer because the degree led me to my job now, right? So that gave me the accessibility of understanding financials and helped me to do my role. But if I could go back, I don't think I would have gone with uni because I'm like 30 grand in debt in HECS that I haven't paid back. And in comparison to people who's gone out and done the job, they've already 3-4 years ahead of me in terms of savings, in terms of life experience. And I think I didn't use my time in uni that wisely. I just studied for the exams. I didn't study for myself because it wasn't something that I was very interested in. So I would probably not go through uni so that I could get ahead of what I know now. Yeah.
And then were your parents pushing you and supporting you pretty much to go to uni?
My parents are actually pretty okay. They've never forced me to study. It was... I guess I proved them that I'm capable, and they used to come to my room and said, "Oh, why are you not studying?" And after I show them my report card, I'm like, "Can you just leave me alone, and then I'll get you the grades that you wanted." So that's what I've always done. And since I moved to New South Wales, they got new friends. They're busier. They don't know what's happening, and I'm pretty sure they don't know what I've got on my ATAR as well. But as long as I was in a uni, that was all good. So I pretty much only went to uni because of the expectations from my family that I should be going to uni, and so that I wouldn't have a life like them, where they work mainly in labour and not something in an office. Yeah.
So back home, before your parents moved here, what were they doing back home?
So my parents were shop owners. So my dad had a light fixture wholesaler kind of shop. My mum had a electrical appliance shop. I actually spoke to her recently about her journey because I'm thinking of doing small business and it's quite daunting for me, and to even think about losing all that fund, right? But I was expecting her to say, "Oh, don't do it. It's risky," because that's what my perception of them is. Anything risky, they will say no. And since they've failed all their businesses in China and came here with a debt, I expected them to say no. And my mum said to me, you should go for it. But after, doing all your researches and understanding how the business work, because you only have one chance. And what's the worst? You fail the business, but you can always work and get that money back. But at least you've tried. And it's good to have that mindset to have a business, because that's the way to make money. Yeah.
So pretty much they were running the business over there. I'm guessing it was going pretty well, and then suddenly, unfortunately, things turned bad. And then the last option for them was to move to Australia, pretty much to pay that off and then find work here.
Yeah.
Because then that would have been a huge change from being a small business owner to then come in here and then just do jobs just to scrape through.
Yeah, I mean, I think majority of migrants that I know, their life back in their own countries is a lot better. They know the people and they don't really need too much to get by. And when they come here, they work so hard. They work long hours. They work all the jobs that no one will want to do. All the Aussies that doesn't want to do, and the migrants will do all the hard job and doesn't earn too much salary. But it's what you have to do and to survive and provide for your kids. So I'm really lucky that my parents look after me in that sense.
Look, if you were to give the community advice to, pretty much if they're doing tough or pretty much trying to figure out what they want to go in life, especially our community, because then we're trying to reach out immigrants, first, second, third generation, so pretty much we understand how tough it is, and it's a different experience. So what advice do you want to give them?
That's hard. I want someone to give me advice as well.
I think we all do.
I mean, I guess everyone has different circumstance, and I'm very harsh to myself, but I guess my advice is don't be harsh, because everything you have achieved as a migrant is a lot harder to a normal person that has, the luxury to be a part of this country before they've very moved. So just understand that everyone has a different starting ground, and wherever you are now, even though it's hard, it's a lot better than what it was. Yeah.
And then keeping on the conversation, so pretty much plans right now, the goal long term, see if you can get to 6 houses. Why that huge number? Why that many?
I mean, the number is not huge because I'm looking at property that are low value. So realistically, they will probably give me a $300 rental per property after tax, after maintenance, once it's all paid off. So 6 properties, that'll give me about $1,800 or $1,500 a week. So that would cover, quite a large expense if I'm not, spending on luxury goods. So it's just a good number to have, $1,500 for the time being. I don't know how much that money will be in the future, but so far I'm comfortable with that number. And with business incomes, I think I'll be pretty flexible with my time then.
And then also say, currently you got 2 properties. How do you feel being a landlord? How's that going? Because it's going to be a new experience.
I mean, I've heard from my tradesmen that I'm a quite kind landlord, because whatever my tenants want, I kind of satisfy them. I put in new ACs, and then clients are asking for new fireplaces. I'm looking at quotes and stuff. It's tough because you want to think from their perspective, but you also need to think about how you have to be as a landlord, because you are not obligated to provide all those, because someone else is out there looking for properties and you could essentially give it to someone else. And I think the toughest moment is when I had to increase my rent for the Perth property. I originally had a rent in high 300s, but because the demand in the market and the applicants that are coming through, the rental went up to high 400, and that is a massive jump for my tenants. And I felt really bad when I made the increase of $60, which is still below the market price. So I felt like within a year I've had to increase my rent significantly. But on the other side, my interest repayment has already gone up as well. So we kind of have to balance that out. Yeah. And
then for the properties, so do you have like a property manager that's helping you out? And then how does that work? Do your tenants, do they talk to you directly, or they go through a property manager to ask for any queries and then you help them out, or?
So I have 2 property manager at the moment. Definitely recommend, because you don't want to be managing that yourself. You'd rather pay someone else the money to look after the property and have that inspection done. You'll be at risk if you trying to save that 10% or 8%. It's quite expensive when it's interstate. It's not like 4% that you can pay in Sydney. So it's quite expensive for the property manager I'm paying, but it's the people I trust. I visit one of the property property manager myself in person that's in SA. And she has been so great to me and provided a lot of assistance because she changed her real estate company. That's why I made the trip to SA, because I wanted to find someone reliable. So I met her in person after speaking to her and signing up the contract originally. So because I was willing to move different real estate, then she was happy to assist me further since I've been paying for termination costs, etc. But in terms of property manager, I do get quite involved whenever there's a task that's required by the tenants. The property manager normally engage me, letting me know what's happening, and I directly call them and discuss the options, or I call the tradesman myself, because sometimes property managers have so much to manage and they don't necessarily provide the best solutions. So you have to go out there and make sure that whatever is provided is right and it's at the price that is correct.
All right, and at the same time, they're helping you look after the tenants as well.
Yeah.
All right, so right now, for your tenants there, you're thinking you want them long term and you want to help them out to stay there?
Of course. I mean, if you have a good tenant, there's no reason why you want them to go, because every tenant at first they all appear great. That's why you lease it to them. But you don't know how they're like after they've stayed in the property, if there's going to be any damages made.
Fyzee, any questions?
No, look, I'm just sitting here feeling very inspired.
You're in awe.
Yeah, because it is a goal for me to buy a property this year. And actually, you know what? If you come across a beginner property investor that is looking into getting into property, what would your advice be for someone like myself if I want to get into it later on this year? A couple of bits of advice.
Okay. I think the first one is don't be afraid to speak to the real estate agent, the property managers, or even the tradesman. Or sometimes a tradesman give you a very good indicator if the property is good or not. Like, for example, for the SA property, I had a pest inspection for the property done, and sometimes what comes out of their mind is different to what the real estate agents see. They'll be able to see more issues, or they see something that's not going right, so they'll let you know. And sometimes you don't get that from the real estate agent because they're just trying to make the sale. So you got to talk to all people. The more phone call you make, the more knowledge you will gain. And then from there, you'll be able to make better phone calls. You're going to ask better questions so you have better knowledge. And the second thing is that it's going to be hard. The first property is always hard. You'll be so scared to make that first step. But once you have made that step and you're committed, everything just comes so easily. Like the second property, you're so confident. You see that property, you want to get it. You make the phone call. You're ready to commit. So it's just that. Don't worry, the first one will take 3 months or 4 months, 5 months. Whenever you're ready, then you'll be ready for the long run.
I was going to say, do you think you feel a bit comfortable getting into property because your parents bought property in Queensland when they were able to save the money when you guys first came? Do you reckon that helped you a little bit?
Not really. I don't really remember them buying that property. I just remember getting a gift basket and shaking hands in a real estate agency. And I was just happy that we finally don't live in a unit and we have a house, and it was so close to school. I could literally hear the alarm and I'd get out of my bed and I'd just walk across. So my parents have always, I think location is key for them. They've always looked properties in location. And I think that's something that stuck with me, getting houses at the right location. I mean, even now when they got the property in Sydney, I live right next to the train. It's one street away, so it's not that noisy. And I'm very close to bus stops, and I have gym, I have a plaza, and I have all the groceries around me. So it's very convenient. So that's something that I've learned from them.
And currently you live with your parents?
Yeah, I live with my parents so I can save more money so I can buy more houses.
Hey, that's always good. If your parents love you and they want to keep you around, take advantage of it.
Yeah, we've spoken a lot about this on the podcast. I still live with my parents. I think there's tremendous value in doing so. Maybe sometimes your mental health suffers. But, you do save a lot, and it does help out a lot financially for sure. So sticking on the topic of investing, you're killing it in the property space. What about the stock market? Have you invested in that? And what are your thoughts, or what do you think of that?
I follow the trend during COVID. I saw Afterpay going from 40 to over 100, and I just was too scared to follow. So I bought ZipPay. That was a great investment. I bought it at 5. It went up to almost 20, and then now I think it might be worth 10 cents each or less. I'm not too sure. So that was not great. I didn't do my research, obviously. So it was more like trying to ride the wave, and I failed, and definitely would do more research. And actually from like Fyzee's advice, I've got into ETFs. So that's been helping me. I had a look. I only lost 2% at the moment. So we'll see how it goes in the long run.
So basically we had a chat and she already researched
None of this financial advice, guys, FYI.
Yep. But she was very keen on doing the research. She knew all the stuff, and she just, I think, was looking for a bit of a push to just get started, which we had a chat about. And I think I'm slowly converting her into a stock market person. I don't know. Let's see. But it's great. You're diversifying across property as well as stocks. So with your ETFs that you've bought, what are your plans with those? Are you going to keep on holding onto them for the long term, or what's the goal with that?
Definitely holding them for long term, because in the short term you don't really see much returns and the risk is higher. So when you hold them for long term, the risk generally reduces, because you get less impact in terms of pricing over long term. So I've already had a initial start on them, and planning to put savings aside each week so that I can make regular investments as well in them.
I was going to ask, because you bought your first property. Before having that property, did you borrow money, like a credit card or anything like that before?
I got a credit card because it was company benefit. I got it for the points. It didn't put me in a very good position.
So you never had a credit card till you got a job that pretty much provided you with one? Or
the bank benefits are too good, hey?
Yeah. So free credit cards, and it came with I remember 70,000 points. Didn't realize it wasn't a very great deal, because now you can get 120, 130 points, 1,000 points. So yeah, got into them because of that. And then actually, when you get into credit card, then it gets you thinking, if I could use someone else's money, why am I using my own money? So it helps with home loans, because you're utilizing, the credit card, the 45-day payment advance. Then you put the money in the loan and you repay it. So it's good if you're not abusing the card.
So you're comfortable with that, pretty much using the credit card, and then you jumped into borrowing money to get the property?
Yeah.
How was that? You feel really comfortable pretty much with the money that you owe and all of that?
I mean, because my property provides a good rental income, and when I bought the property, I was looking at a 6 to 7% rental yield, and I wasn't really stressed. And I said to one of the properties, even if the interest rate was over 4.5%, I'm still going to break even. And I was so confident. And then look at the interest rate now; it's way above 4.5. But because the loan value are small, because the house price are low, then it still doesn't have too much stress on me.
So when you bought the properties, you saved a 20% deposit?
10%, because
10%, okay.
Yeah, banking benefits, 90% land. Yeah.
Everyone, get a job at the banks, could take advantage of the LMI.
Yeah, it's so insane. But one question I was going to ask is, obviously with the current rate rises, has that put you off? Has that made you a bit more cautious with your next investment that you're thinking about? Or are you still full steam ahead? You want to keep going with the plan? Has anything changed at all with the recent rate rises?
Definitely with the rises, that I'm looking at different types of property. So now I'm looking at more capitalizing the capital of the property, looking at the build, if something that's more ideal, because before I'm looking purely on rental return to cover the interest, but now not really any property is going to do that. So you're going to look at property that has the potential to be sold at a higher price in the future. So then I'm willing to spend more, because I'm already looking at negative gearing. Yeah.
I was going to ask, your friends or your circle of friends, are they on a similar journey into property, or are you the only one that's crazy enough to do this?
I know one friend who is way above what I'm at right now. He's done property development. When I first met him, he just finished building his own property, which is worth, I think, 700,000, fully paid off. Oh. He was a year younger than me, and he's building his mum's dream house next door at the time as well. And he's got so many big plans in business that's currently going for him while working a full-time job. So I think there's a lot of ambitious people in my life, but there are also ones that just still in the same place as I remember them 5 years ago. So I would love to surround myself with more ambitious people, so that way I'm more encouraged to do more. But it's very hard to find like-minded people, because most people don't want to talk about financials and talk about their goals. They like to, be a silent achiever.
We know that from experience.
Yeah, I think, from experience, we've seen that people generally don't want to talk about money, and it's a bit taboo, like even discussing salaries.
Do you think it's a taboo because you're an immigrant? You don't want to share your journey that much?
Yeah, well, I just feel like if people aren't doing as well, they are less inclined to share that because, it's a bit of a personal thing. I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure what makes it taboo. Like, it's so important. Like, we all work. Money is central, but yet we're so scared to talk about it, even though that is literally all we do for 40 hours a week. Yet we just don't want to talk about it because it's just like, why?
Maybe it's a Western culture thing because that happens here. And I know that in China, when people meet up the parent, they'll be like, how much are your kids earning? And then your parents will be like, they're earning this, they're earning that. Oh, they bought a property. So wealth and money is always talked about in my culture, but it's definitely not the case here. Maybe it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, I just feel like maybe over there, people are just a bit more nosy. Like they just want to know what's going on and everything. So that could be one factor. But it may seem like, probably is more like open there. But sticking with the topic of investing, we've talked about property, talked about the stock market, stocks, ETFs, your tremendous gains on Zip. So looking at crypto, so what's your experience been with that? Do you do crypto? I mean, what do you think of it?
I haven't done crypto. I haven't looked into it. I feel like it's for someone who has time and fast-paced life that they could just focus and looking into it because you could wake up with the news and you realize half your money's gone. So I am more inclined to long-term investment hold, and I think crypto is definitely above my risk tolerance, so I haven't looked into it. Yeah.
Very good answer.
So for our listeners, so what's risk tolerance again?
Risk tolerance? Definitely got to invest according to your risk. But in terms of any other things you want to go through, I think this has been pretty informational. It's very inspirational to see, people young just killing it.
Look, I'm in awe because you've achieved so much, and then you've gone through the journey, you've struggled. Like it's pretty much our typical experience when you come to a new country, especially when you come to Australia, and we're trying to share that in this community. But you're killing it. You're doing awesome. Even if you feel stressed, you don't know what to do. Like you've done really well so far, I reckon you're gonna keep doing well too.
That's a massive compliment because I just reflect on my finances and I look at what I want to go and where I want to be, and I just feel like it's so unreachable, but you just have to keep on pushing.
Yeah, because you never know what you're going to get. I think that's part of our journey as immigrants, to be honest, and being new to this country is that we strive as much as we can to get better and then do the next step and the next step as much as we can. So I reckon that's something that happens in our community a lot. Yeah, you're trying to become better. Yeah, you help out your parents, help out the family, but it's always striving to pretty much do well.
Yeah, it's hard, but we'll get there.
All right, Fyzee, any ending remarks?
No ending remarks for me. Oh, well, actually, yes. I just want to say thank you for coming on. It's been amazing. You are our first guest of the podcast, and we hope to have many more people come on. Do you want to give any words of advice or anything to our listeners about investing or just general tips about, coming into Australia and building a life here?
I guess if I could come here with knowing no words of English, and I'm pretty sure most people would have a little bit more than what I had. If I can do it, then you can do it. Like with investment, if you do your research, then why don't you just take the risk, go for it. If you fail, like my mum said, you can always try again. You can always work hard and try again. So that's it.
Love it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to our episode.
If you're new to Australia, please reach out.
We wanted to build a community of immigrants that help each other.
If any part of this podcast resonated with you, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps us a lot.
Lastly, follow us on our Patreon for exclusive content, socials, and share us with your friends and family.